Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the Alchemical Life podcast. This is your host, Abigail Crow speaking. And I have a little bit of a new setup going on right now. So we're going to check it out. You will see my face glance down more often now because the setup that was attached to my computer is now up a little bit higher. And so the notes that I have on my computer for the topics that we're going to discuss today are a little bit farther in terms of camera to computer. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes because I want to stay on topic with you all today. But we're going to talk about all of the big no-nos for lifting as a runner. And I think this is really helpful for people because one of the biggest questions that I get, or some of the huge questions that I hear on Reddit forums, on group chats, in Facebook groups, and on Instagram comments is just a whole lot of what do I do when it comes to strength training for running? There's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of misleading information that you guys are being fed with. And so I want to silence the noise on all of that this week and just talk about some of the big no-nos for lifting as a runner so that you can then have a better idea as to where to approach lifting for running in some of our previous episodes we've talked about that we've discussed and our future episodes moving forward as well. That being said, hey, you guys, I am a strength coach. I work predominantly with endurance athletes to help them run faster, longer, forever. And I love running myself. I'm dealing with my own injury right now, actually, because I did a lot of big no-nos for running when it comes to running. So I got a little bit too enthusiastic with my mileage and I knew better. Anyways, that being said, those updates will come down the line. For anybody who doesn't know, I've been training for a mile race and I don't know if that's going to happen because my 5K and my half are the goals that I have for this year. They're a lot more feasible in terms of meeting them. They're much more realistic. And also they're ones that I think I want to pursue a little bit more. So I'm kind of like, I would rather not totally burn myself out for the rest of the year trying to run on a hip that I think is dealing with some tendonitis or a very serious adductor hamstring strain. I'd rather rehab it quickly and then move forward with my life than struggle through it and be on a sufferfest. So updates to come on that, but unrelated to me, I do not matter right now. You guys matter because you guys are running, and you need to lift. You have to lift and I don't know where to start and what to do. And I'm seeing this stuff on Instagram. I'm seeing these videos on YouTube and I'm just confused. And so let me tell you guys what not to do, what to avoid so that you can better approach how to lift for your runs. Okay. So big no number one is and this is probably the biggest culprit that I see is say no to high repetition. This does not mean that high reps is never the answer because especially for upper body exercises, high reps sometimes is fine, totally fine. But high reps for everything, and by high reps, I mean 15 plus repetitions, is usually not going to be the answer for a runner. Oftentimes, the strength movements that we're doing is going to be you want to be in a rep range where you're spending enough time working on a position and challenging the overall strength and stability component of that exercise. You do not need to do it for 15 repetitions, right? We're out of the strength realm usually in terms of rep range at that point. And oftentimes we're in a place too where form tends to break down, right? So when I see people go into the higher rep ranges too, I see load go down, volume increase, and you guys as runners run so much, your volume is already so high. Loadability is actually what we want to increase here so that we can improve overall strength, stability, and resilience. And that is going to then carry over positively to all of your high volume work, which is your running. So say no to high repetitions. Again, that's not to say that 15 reps is like, if you do it, you're just setting yourself up for failure. But I would say majority of your sets should be in the 6 to 12 rep range for most exercises that you select. Sometimes less even if we're really, really more on the strength side of the programming and you're a little bit more off season and you can focus on strength a little bit more. The second no is doing a crap ton of exercises. You're choosing over 8 exercises in your training plan in your one workout for the day. I would say that's likely too much unless you are in season and you're doing a lot of drills or your coach has you doing a lot of just getting into certain positions and doing drills and they're not necessarily highly loadable exercises. That might be where the exercise selection starts to increase in number. But for the most part, if you're focusing on strength, I want to get stronger for my running. I want to get improved stability. I would not encourage you guys to be going past like 6 exercises, really. Warm up aside, you're done with your warm up, you're getting into the actual meat and potatoes of your training session. Really, if you're focusing on a solid 4 to 6 exercises, you're probably setting yourself up pretty well for making sure that you are eking all of the quality out of those exercises, and you're not just dawdling on doing a bunch of other extra stuff, right? This is what people call junk volume, and I don't necessarily love the term, but I think that it's really applicable here, which is you don't want to choose a bunch of exercises just for the sake of choosing a bunch of exercises or because you think you need them. Oftentimes, you'll get plenty out of 4 to 6 exercises that are chosen really well and loaded at a certain level of, I wouldn't say loaded, done intensely enough. You'll get just as much, if not more, of the benefits from the training session. Doing a bunch of exercises is another big no-no. These are also red flags that I would look at in training programs myself. If you're on the market for a training program, I would look at how many exercises are in each session, how many repetitions are prescribed each session or each exercise. The third big no is outside of the realm of the training room, and it's no to lifting without any fuel. Most of the times I encourage people to stack their quality days together. That means that on a high quality day, you're doing a very intense run. You're also going to stack that with your lift. So you'll run, you should have, again, because you've just ran, definitely some rest in between, but also carbs, protein, fats. You should have fuel in between that next session when you go and lift, because 1, you've just burned a lot of energy up in your run session, and 2, you want to go into your lift feeling good, not depleted, and also with some new energy stored up and ready to go. Because if you're going into your lift session fasted, depleted, tired, fatigued, at best, you're not going to get a lot out of the session. At worst, you're going to hurt yourself in your session because you're just not going to be able to be as physically ready for the session and as neurologically ready for the session as you need to be. So go into your training sessions fueled. If you are a runner and you care about your running and you care about performance, fasted lifting and fasted running is likely just not going to be a good idea. Fuel is what you need. If you're just doing it for fun and as a hobby and because you feel like it, then you can totally train fasted. That's fine. I would say that you're not eking as much out of the sessions as you could possibly be getting out of the session. But again, if it's just for funsies, then who cares, right? As long as you're having fun, we're having fun. No. 2, only doing unilateral exercises. What does this mean? Unilateral training, which is single leg training. So things like a single leg squat, a lunge variation, a single leg RDL, a single leg press, single leg extension, single leg anything, right? Anything on one leg. Those things are great for runners, right? Unilateral training is awesome because oftentimes you are now moving your center of mass to one leg. You're working on stability at the one side of the body. You're working on you're creating a little bit more synergy and balance between both sides of the body. So you're working on potentially fixing any imbalances that you may have. All of these things are super important at creating stability and more efficient running mechanics, right? Because the unilateral training also more closely mimics that of our gait cycle and running in and of itself. So unilateral training is awesome. Why I say no to only unilateral training is because bilateral training is the best type of training that you can get for improving overall strength. And that should still be a focus, right? Stability is great, and we want to work on it, but also strength is really, really powerful. And strength in terms of being able to generate internal stability and express that forcefully, right? Generating strength. We want both. Ooh, I just hit my microphone. Sorry, guys. You want both of those things, right? You want to be both stable, but you also want to be really, really strong. You want your runs to be powerful. You want to be able to create a lot of force. You want to be able to absorb a lot of force. You want to be able to do this for an extended period of time and maintain this and not have any kind of form breakdown long term on a run. Strength is very, very important. The best exercises to generate the most amount of strength are going to be bilateral exercises, things like deadlifts, things like squats, things like bench press. All of those movements are going to be really great for improving strength. Now, I will say I have seen some pretty horrible programs that are just basic bilateral strength. There's no thought into them. It's just like, 3 sets of 5 reps deadlift, 3 sets of 5 reps pull-ups, 3 sets of 5 reps bench press, And that is not necessarily going to be conducive for success in your running, right? But having something like a trap bar deadlift at the beginning of your session, and then from there doing some accessory work like a single leg RDL, like a single arm chest press, like a single arm dumbbell row with a dip, another bilateral. Those things, using both bilateral and unilateral to work together in conjunction to create a very, very strong functional runner, is going to be imperative. So do not just stick to unilateral exercises, right? I think that a lot of programs are very unilateral focused, and I think a lot of runners stick very much to let's load less, right? Let's not go heavy, stick to the stability stuff only. Let's stick to the cool, funky drills. Let's stick to the high repetitions. And it's just not going to help you long term in your running as much as you think it will, without also increasing strength. The other thing is less rest. You guys are also like, rest the least amount possible. And that could not be farther from what you want in strength training. I think that when people are running, they assume less rest, more volume, because that's what runners do. But if you really think about running and programming, the strength training should actually be the same. It should be thought about the same, but the principles should be thought about the same, not the exact training session, right? And here's where I'm going with this when it comes to rest. In running, you're resting the required amount to elicit the benefits that we want to from the training session. So if you're doing a quality work for 5K efforts, right, you might be doing 1,200 meter repeats and resting about 90 seconds, but it's because in that 90 seconds, you are extracting about the amount of time and recovery out of the rest period that you want before you can go in and hit the same interval time that you want for your 5K race pace. Same for strength. Now, this doesn't mean you only want to rest 30 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute, whatever. It's just I'm resting in my strength sessions long enough to recover me to be able to maintain strength across all of the sets that I need to with good form. Okay. Oftentimes, runners tend to load less in the movements. And so they think, well, I got done with my set. I feel really ready because they're not loading heavy enough. So they go 30 seconds rest and then they go right into their next set. And that is not a great plan. I think that a better option would be load heavier, get pretty dang worn out after that set, rest the full 90 seconds to even 2 minutes that you might need for the next set, and then go into that next set ready to go. Still, I exerted a lot of energy on that set, but I was able to hit the weight that I needed to and maintain form. And that's exactly how the principles of, here's for running, here's our rest principles, here's for strength training, here's our rest principles. They're the same. They just look a little bit different in the conditioning and strength realm, which is with strength, right? You might have to rest a little bit longer because you're loading a little bit heavier, and that's totally fine. That should be totally good. So no to resting less than 30 seconds between sets, no to resting minimally between sets. Give yourself time to rest. And if you feel like you only need about 30 seconds of rest, I think that's a great indicator that you could go a little bit harder, you could go a little bit heavier. Now, if it's a movement where you're just prepping for your like you're doing a warm up, or you're doing some drills where you're deep in season and maybe your coach is just having you run through some easy drills instead of doing very loadable exercises, then you might need less rest. That might mean that you can go 30 seconds and then go into your next set. But for actual strength, you want to rest more. So embrace the rest, have fun with it. Understand that whenever you're out there running, that's when you can feel out of breath, like you wish you were resting longer. Strength is where you get to rest. Okay. The next one, no to plyos before you're ready. I see so many programs that give these weird plyos too. It's not even like, to me, very well prescribed plyometric exercises. It's just bouncing randomly everywhere for super high repetitions, minimal rest. It's like all of the things that I say no to in one thing with plyometrics. So I don't love that. I think that plyos should be strategically added into a runner's program when they're ready, which is usually when they're a little bit more off season, when they've already got a little bit of background of strength training, right? You've got the stability, you've got the strength. Now we can challenge it in terms of adding in some power and explosivity, and we can let me word this well. No, I actually like the way I put that. We can work a little bit more on power and explosivity in our training. And you have the strength and the prerequisites to be able to manage that now well. So also, I think the types of plyos, it doesn't mean high rep. Actually, true plyos should be lower rep and pretty intensive. So this means that you're doing things like depth jumps, like drop jumps, like seated broad jumps, seated box jumps, weighted box jumps. These are not going to feel super sensationally burny or challenging, but they're going to require a lot from your central nervous system in order to perform really well and proficiently. And so these are an exercise where you have to deceptively, you're going to be like, I don't need to rest. I'm good. I'm fine. You need to rest in between them. You need to do, minimal reps and give yourself a long rest period in between the, group of reps you've done and then the following set. Also, I would be cautious about how many plyos you're including, especially intensive plyos you're including when you're deep in season. So when you are very close to a race, because usually the training becomes more intense or more high volume, you're getting a lot of intensive and extensive plyos by themselves just as a runner, like doing the running thing. So I'd be careful about how much additional plyometrics you're going to include in your training session. That's something that I would have you prepare more in an off season or when you're far away from like an A series race and practice after obviously already doing some strength and stability work in and of itself, like you're ready to go. You can add in those plyos then I would add in those plyometrics. Then I would start getting a little bit more close to that season. I'd then get rid of those plyos and focus a little bit more on the stability side of things, the drilling side of things, reinforcing position, maintaining strength, and then go into your race after taper, obviously, feeling really good. That's how I would program plyometrics. So no to plyos before you're ready. And I would say also additionally, be cautious about the type of plyometrics that you are including in your strength training sessions when you're very close to an A series race. The next, no to lifting on rest days or easy days if you can help it. This is going to go into conjunction with my next one, which is no to lifting before a run if it's a quality effort. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. I am a firm believer. I apologize for the damn garbage person that's outside right now. Oh my God, making noise. Anyways, here's how I feel about undulating intensity. And I talk about this all the time. So if you are a regular listener, one, hey, you're awesome. And two, I apologize because I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I really think that this principle is extremely important for training, which is there's only so many days you can really go hard in a week. You need to undulate your intensity throughout the week because that's just how it works, right? This is why we don't have hard runs every single day out of the week. You have easy, and then you have hard, and then you have maybe an easy day, then a rest day, then a hard day, then an easy day, then a hard day, then a rest day. Like you have to undulate intensity in terms of your actual runs, right? That's why we have easy runs, long runs, quality runs, threshold run. Like this is why we have this. That being said, what this also means is that what is going on? There's so much sound and I don't know if you guys are picking it up and I apologize if you're not picking it up, but there was so much noise and I'm a little bit overstimulated. So, okay, this cannot be just me. Hold on. Pause. I think we might be good. I'm not entirely sure. If the sound gets crazy, we'll figure it out. I'll pause as needed. But back to what I was saying, undulating intensity is really important through your training week. You want to also be able to undulate intensity with your strength sessions as well in conjunction with your runs because, right, the whole point of strength training is to be a better runner. So this means that I would create a plan where your strength sessions are on the same day that you have your quality efforts so that your high intensity days can stay high intensity and your lower intensity days can stay lower intensity. That being said, so if you are starting to lift, I do not recommend lifting. I would say no to lifting on your easy days or your rest days, right? Because what that is doing is now adding a certain degree of intensity to those days that are supposed to be very chill. And then your recoverability is down because you have this high intensity quality day. Then you have what's supposed to be an easy day, but now it's not an easy day because you have your lift. So, and then you've got maybe a rest day and then another high intensity day. And you're just not quite as recovered going into that next high intensity day because you're spreading your intensity throughout the week. And it's going to lead to more mediocre sessions, less recoverability. That also goes into the next thing, which is I would not lift before a run. I think that with your running being the most important thing, you should lift after a run, especially if it's on a quality day, right? Because we want our quality effort to be where we have all of our energy. We really show up our A self and we do our session, and then we have some rest, then we have some calories, then we go into the next session, which is the lift. And you're still going to eke out a lot from the lift, but you're not having to you're not lifting, getting fatigued, and then having to try and summon all this energy and really show up well for your quality effort, when the most important thing really is the quality effort. If you have to work out on an easy day or a rest day, then I would do your lift actually that day before you do your easy stuff. I think that that's totally fine. You can lift beforehand because the lift would be the more intense thing of the day anyways. So lift before easy runs, but really I would just stay away from having a lift on an easy day, stay away from having a lift on a rest day, and keep your lifts strictly to the same days that you are doing your quality sessions. I think that undulates your intensity much more efficiently throughout the week, and you will find that your recoverability is much higher, even though those days are a little bit harder. Okay. Those are my no's for lifting as a runner. I think in hearing those no's, you also got a lot of good suggestions and yeses for what you should be doing. But if you have any questions on really how to start incorporating lifts into your week, you're still struggling with figuring out your schedule, the time, the frequency, that kind of thing, do not hesitate to reach out to me, DM me. All of my information is in the description below. Continue to watch these videos. I guarantee you I have videos in previous episodes that probably answer the question that you have. So look back. The titles I hope are pretty descriptive in terms of the topics we discuss. So check out a title that you might be interested in and listen back on those. If you are interested in Strength for Runner programs, I do sell them. I'm actually revamping my programs currently. That's why I haven't been advertising them as much. So if you're waiting for the revamped program on Train Heroic, I will have those out in the next couple of weeks. Ideally, the team is working on it right now. So that's why I haven't announced much. But keep messaging me about those if you're interested in. And of course, always, I have my one-on-one online coaching option where I work directly with you to help you during your season get the absolute best training you can so that you are running longer, faster, forever. And that's all for today, you guys. Short but sweet episode. I hope that you all enjoy, and I will see you guys next week with my client, Katie. She is an elite masters runner. You guys are going to love this episode. We talk all things marathon training, fueling, how to prep for it, and race day preparation. Oh my God, I'm so excited for it. These episodes get me hype, but I'll see you all next week with her. Bye, you guys.